In this section, we're going to download a dataset from a very popular website called Kaggle.com. Kaggle is basically a place to do data science projects. So the first thing that you have to do is create an account. You can sign up with Facebook, Google, or a custom email and password. Once you're done, come to Kaggle.com. This is the main dashboard you will see after you've logged in. In the left panel, click on Datasets. And in the search bar, search for video game sales. And the topmost item is what we want. And this is one of the very popular datasets that many beginners use, and this is what we will be using in this course as well. So let us click on it, and as you can see, this contains the sales data for more than 16,000 video games. If we scroll down here, you can see the various columns the dataset contains. It currently has 11 columns like rank, name, platform, year, etc. And you can imagine we have 16,000 rows as well, each row dedicated to one video game. So we have the first game in the first row, Wii Sports, which sits at the number 1 rank, the platform it can be played on, also the year it was released, and so on. And just above this, you can see that this is a CSV file. So let us go ahead and download this file by clicking on the download button here. So this will give you a zip file, and once we extract it, we get the CSV file that we want, which is right here. Now I want you to take the CSV file and put it right next to our Jupyter Notebook. On my machine, it is on my desktop. So I'm going to drag and drop this on my desktop. So now if I go to my desktop, we can see the Jupyter Notebook as well as the CSV file. With that, let us now go back to our Jupyter Notebook. Let's remove the first line and instead say import pandas as PD. With this, we're importing the pandas module and we're renaming it to PD so that this way we don't have to type out pandas everywhere we need it. So let us now type pd dot read underscore CSV, and since this is a method, let us invoke it as well. And in here, we have to specify the name of the CSV file. So that would be vg sales.csv. Now because the CSV file is in the current folder right next to our Jupyter Notebook, we can easily load it. Otherwise, we have to provide the full path to this file. Now, when this method gets executed, it returns something called a data frame object, and this is really important. The data frame object is like an Excel spreadsheet. Let me show it to you. So we can create a variable called, let's say, df equal to, and then below that, we can simply type df to inspect it. Now let's run this program again by clicking on the run button. And here it is, the data frame with rows and columns. So as you can see right here, we have the rank column, name, platform, etc. This data frame object has lots of attributes and methods that are just too vast to cover in this crash course. But we're going to be looking at the most commonly used ones. So the first one we're going to be looking at is an attribute called shape. So we can say dot shape. Now let's click on the run button one more time. And as you can see, we got the shape of the data set. We have 16,000 something records and 11 columns. So technically, this is a 2-dimensional array of 16,000 rows and 11 columns. So down here, you can see that we have another segment for writing code. So we don't have to write all of our code in the first segment. So here in the second segment, we can call one of the methods of the data frame, that is, let's say df.describe, which is a method. Now, when we run this program, you can see the output of each code segment right next to it. So we have the first segment with these 3 lines, and this is the output of the last line. And here we have the second segment calling the describe method, and right below it, we have the output of this segment. So this is the beauty of Jupyter. We can easily visualize our data. Doing it with VS Code and terminal can get really tedious and clunky. So what is this describe method returning? Basically, it is returning some basic information about each column in this dataset. So as we saw earlier, we have columns like rank, year, and so on. So these are the columns with numerical values. Now this describe method finds out the count, which is the total number of records in the columns. So as you can see, the rank column has 16,000 something records, whereas the year column has a different, lesser number of records. So this shows that some of the records don't have the value for the year column, so those records are not included as part of the count. So in a real world data science or machine learning project, we will have to use some technique to clean up our dataset. One option is to remove the records that do not have the value for the year column, or we can assign them a default value. That really depends on the project. Now another attribute for each column is mean. This gives the average of all the values in a particular column. Now in the case of the rank column, this value might not be that important, but look at the year. So the average year for all these video games in our dataset is 2006. So this might be an important data in the problem that you're trying to solve. We also have standard deviation. In simple terms, it tells you how much the values in a group differ from the average. Below that, we also have the min data, which gives the minimum value in a column. For example, the minimum value in the year column is 1980. So quite often, when we're working with a dataset, we call the describe method to get some basic statistics about our data. Let me show you another useful attribute. And let's type here df.values, and also note that this is not a method. So let's run this. And as you can see, it returns a two-dimensional array. The square bracket returns the outer array, and the second one represents the inner array. So the first element represents an array itself, and whatever values are in the first array represents the values in the first row in the dataset. So the video that ranks first is Wii Sports, and the rank 2 is Super Mario Bros. So this is the basic overview of Pandas data frames. In the next section, let us look at some useful shortcuts of Jupyter.